Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're a homeowner here in Maryville, or really anywhere in East Tennessee, you already know our real estate market is on fire. But when it's your turn to sell, that strength brings up one giant question. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and demystify every single cost involved. The goal? To help you plan your next move with absolute confidence. All right, let's get right into it.
And you know exactly what that question is, right? It's how much money am I actually going to walk away with? It's totally normal to feel a bit anxious about the numbers. I mean, you've got fees, taxes, commissions. It can feel like a lot. But our mission here is to make it super simple and crystal clear.
So, let's just cut to the chase with the most important rule of thumb you need to know. Based on tons of local sales, most sellers right here in the Maryville area can expect to pay somewhere between 5 and 8% of their home's final sale price in total costs. Now, whether you're closer to 5 or 8, well, that depends on a few things we're about to break down. But for now, just lock that 5 to 8% number in your head. That's your baseline.
But what exactly is in that 5 to 8%? That's the real question. And that's what we're here to do. We're going to break down every single line item, from the stuff you have to pay to the things that are optional, so that by the time we're done here, there will be zero surprises.
First up, let's talk about the non-negotiables. These are the standard costs that are pretty much part of every single real estate deal here in Tennessee. Think of them as the fees that make sure the sale's all legal, totally secure, and properly recorded.
The first piece of that puzzle is the title search and insurance. This is basically a background check for your property. A title company goes and digs through all the public records to make 100% sure you have the clear and free right to sell it. It's an absolutely crucial step that protects both you and the buyer from any weird ownership issues from the past.
And here's a little piece of good news you might not have expected. You don't have to waste time shopping around for title insurance rates. Here in Tennessee, the state actually regulates them. What does that mean for you? It means you get consistent, fair pricing no matter which title company ends up handling your closing. One less thing to worry about.
Next on the list is the Tennessee transfer tax. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like, a tax the state collects whenever property changes hands. And here in the Maryville area, it's standard practice for the seller to be the one who pays it. It's just an expected part of the process.
So, how much are we talking here? Well, the math is actually super simple. You just take your home sales price, divide that by 100, and then multiply the result by 37 cents. So let's use a real number. If you sell your house for $400,000, your transfer tax would be exactly $1,480. See? Pretty straightforward.
Okay, now let's talk about what's often the biggest single fee, the real estate agent's commission. And I really want to challenge you to think about this differently. A great agent isn't a cost. They are a strategic investment. An investment designed to get you the absolute highest possible sale price for your home.
Because that fee, it's not just for putting a sign in the yard. Not even close. It covers this whole package of essential services. We're talking gorgeous, professional photos that make your home just leap off the screen online, getting your home in front of every potential buyer on the MLS, a custom marketing plan, and maybe most important of all, an expert negotiator who's in your corner, managing the whole complicated deal from start to finish.
And that really brings us to this key point from our source material. Trying to sell on your own, well, it can be really risky. An experienced agent doesn't just help you get more money, they navigate all the tricky contracts and legal disclosures to protect you from massive headaches down the road. Okay, so we've covered the required stuff. Now let's get into the areas where you have a bit more flexibility and choice. These are the costs that can change depending on your specific sale, the negotiations, and just your own personal preferences as a seller. A perfect example of this is prorated fees, things like property taxes and any HOA dues. You're only responsible for the part of the year you actually owned the home. So if you sell on August 1st, you pay for January through July, and the buyer takes over from that day forward. It's just a fair split that gets all sorted out right at the closing table. All right, so after the buyer's inspection, you're probably going to be faced with a decision. They'll likely have a list of repairs. So, do you make the repairs yourself before closing, or do you offer the buyer a credit, basically a discount, so they can handle it after they move in? Look, there's no single right answer here. It's a strategic call you'll make with your agent to see what makes the most sense for you financially.
You can also choose to offer some sweeteners to make your home even more attractive. For a pretty small cost, usually somewhere between $400 and $700, you could offer a home warranty that gives the buyer some extra peace of mind. Other things, like making a few small improvements before you list or offering buyer credits, are totally up to you and what the market is doing at the time.
All right, we've looked at all the individual pieces of the pie. Now let's put it all together and see how these costs actually add up in a few real-world scenarios right here in Maryville. This is where the theory hits the road. So check this out. For a pretty typical $350,000 home, your total costs are going to land somewhere around $20,000. If you're selling a $450,000 home, that number bumps up to about $27,000. And for a smaller townhome at, say, $280,000, you're looking at around $15,000. You can really see how that 5 to 8% rule of thumb translates into actual dollars and cents.
And here it is, the final, most important step in the whole calculation. After you subtract all these selling costs from your sale price, there's just one more number you have to deduct, whatever you still owe on your mortgage. What's left over after that is the good part. That's the cash that gets wired right into your bank account.
So after all this, what's the big takeaway? It's pretty simple, really. Knowing the numbers ahead of time completely transforms the selling process. It goes from being something stressful and mysterious to an experience where you feel totally in control and empowered to make smart decisions.
So let's just quickly recap the most important things to remember. First, plan for your total costs to be in that 5 to 8% range. Second, remember that those costs are a mix of things you must pay, investments you should make, and optional fees you can choose. And maybe the best part of all, none of this comes out of your pocket up front. It's all handled from the money you make at closing. Knowledge really is power here.
Look, selling your home is a massive financial milestone. And while it is absolutely critical to understand the costs, the real excitement comes from thinking about what's next. So we'll just end with this thought. Now that you're armed with all this knowledge, now that you know what it costs, aren't you just a little bit excited to find out what you stand again?